editorial director of the STEMher Magazine. She received her Bachelor of Science degree in mining engineering and minored in women's studies leadership from Virginia Tech. Over the last 10 years, she has advocated for the recruitment and retention of girls and women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through presentations at K-12 schools and other settings. She has been a participant at the annual Carlin STEM Fair. She was named 2018 STEM honoree by the Girl Scouts of the Sierra Nevada at their annual Triumphant, celebrating women in leadership dinner. In October 2018, she was also a panelist in the Eastern Nevada STEM Summit, comprising of STEAM educators and professionals. For several years, she has been a judge for the annual Engineer Girl Essay Contest and the Elko County STEM Fair. Her personal motto is reach for excellence and nothing less. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend, Ruby B. Johnson.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am honored to be here with all of you this morning. My name is Ruby, as Janie mentioned just now. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, a small country in West Africa, approximately about 7.6 million population. I moved to the United States when I was 12 years old, and I completed my middle and high school education in what I love to call the Blue Crab State, which is the state of Maryland. So being raised in the US, my mom was a single parent who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet, and she took care of me and my older brother as well. From a very young age, I was a very talkative child. I had an inquisitive mind, and I was the child that would debate folks who were like, who could be my parents and even older. I just love talking a lot, and so it's wonderful I get to do this also, outside of mining. Being that, with all these different qualities that I had, my family always said, oh, you'd be a great lawyer. You love to argue. You love fighting everyone with your words. You love learning. You love reading. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I can be a lawyer. That sounds cool if I can do this professionally. And fast forward from just being a younger child, being told I could be a lawyer, in 9th grade, I took an introduction to technology class, which was one of the electives that in our freshman students had to take at my high school in Maryland. I didn't really know what to expect from this class. It sounded interesting and I was excited. My teacher's name in that class was Dr. James Disler. In this class, I learned how to use tools and different machines like drills, bandsaw. I got to build robots with wood. I got to work with wood, get dirty, and we did a lot of fun projects and in-class assignments. They were based on simple machines such as the pulley, the lever, wheel and axle, and all these different things that I was introduced to. It was really cool because that's not something I grew up with. I just would watch TV and read. So it was a whole new world for me, and I grew up in a home with women, and so they didn't do these things. So it was really nice for me to be exposed to that kind of world in that class. I got to use my hands. I love that I got to make things with my hands, something tangible, something useful as well. That was really cool. To see the product, just the brain process of putting these things together. I enjoyed that a lot in that class. I'd even voluntarily go to Dr. Disler's class during my lunchtime so I can work on my projects or even just build something like, Dr. D, can you teach me how to do this? Dr. D. Like, I was like that teacher's pet, definitely. And I liked him a lot. And it's funny because he's one of those teachers that not a lot of people liked him, but for some reason I loved Dr. Disler. Because like kids used to think he was so mean, he was so strict, but I loved him. He was like my favorite, and he was so loud too. And so, but like kids just, not many kids liked him. They always said, oh my gosh, he's so intense, and you're just a high school teacher and stuff like that. But to me, I was just like, I loved Dr. Disler so much, and I just loved spending time in his classroom. And I just love that he was patient enough to teach me things. It wasn't just about being in his class and doing well, but he took his time, his interest. He taught me how to use some of these machines machines that were even taller than me. I'm not as tall as I look. I'm wearing high heels right now. And I've been the same height since I was 9 years old. So, but it was just really cool that I got to learn how to use these really cool machines. And thanks to Dr. Dissler for just being patient with me and taking the time. As he noticed my technical skills and STEM interest, he invited me to join my high school's robotics team, which is part of the first robotics competition. And I know Carlin has that, which Janie leads beautifully. And so I accepted his invitation and joined my high school's team. I loved spending my Saturdays at school working on our robots and traveling for competitions. Competitions were so exciting, and I got to see the creativity of students, even though we're all given the same instructions on what to do, but just to see how we also did them differently, just to accomplish the same goal. I just absolutely love that about just getting to travel, because like for me, it was just like school, church, home. That was like what my life was, but robotics made me go outside, go to places that I probably would never get to go to. So I enjoy that a lot, and just staying at school for later hours and on Saturdays. Sometimes like I wouldn't get dropped off till like midnight, and I was totally fine with that, and that was exciting to me as a kid, because robotics was just so much fun. So in 10th grade, Dr. Dissler, he was I know maybe 10th grade sounds early, but he was recommending that I should probably study engineering when I go to college. He came up with some different schools and different things I could do. The one thing Dr. Dissler messed up on was he told me to do engineering, but he didn't tell me which one. So when I went to college, I didn't know which engineering to do. And I was like, I went to tech, and then it's like, I'm here to do engineering. It's like, which one? Engineering. Because Dr. Dissler. So he didn't really help me out on that. So be more specific, Dr. Dissler, and say that there were hundreds of engineering fields that I could get into. So that was the one struggle I had in college, thanks to Dr. D. But yeah, apparently there are more than one engineering. It's not just a big old engineering. So, I took his advice. And interestingly, at that time, even though I enjoyed all these different things, these STEM activities, and I had the STEM interest, I had the technical skills, there was still something, I still didn't think I could be an engineer because I was a girl. It didn't add up to me. I was like, yeah, I like doing this, yeah, I enjoy doing that, I'm good at this, but I'm still gonna be a lawyer. Like, it's crazy because Dr. Dissler saw the engineer in me before anyone else could. I didn't even see it. And Dr. D, he saw that engineer from like 9th grade. Because I was like, yeah, this is cool, this is awesome. I'm gonna do this though, I'm gonna do something else. And that was one of the things that I loved about him. And even though I was like, this man is crazy, I still decided to go for it because Dr. D was my favorite teacher, and he won't lie to me. He wants the best for me, I trusted him. And so I was like, all right, cool, I would do this engineering thing, Dr. Dissler. But yeah, and then so I just kind of, as the years went by in high school, I was just kind of focused on that. I took more STEM courses, because the way how my high school worked is we had different academies. Like we had like the Humanities Academy, Entrepreneurship Academy, the STEM academies, and things like that. We had 5 in my school, which is one of the reasons why I went to that school, even though it was out of my school district. Somehow I was able to, I guess my grades and other things in middle school were able to get me to go to that school, which was outside of the school lines for me, because Maryland is very strict about that. Our county was very strict about stuff like that. So I decided to go the STEM route because of his advice. And in 11th grade, I had a physics teacher who encouraged me to attend Virginia Tech, because he had attended Tech, and he thought, okay, well, if you're saying engineering, that's a great place to go. There are a lot of options. The University of Maryland's great, but like it would give you more options if you went to Tech. And so he spent time. One day we just sat there, and he went through a lot of stuff with me. Like when at that time, the only knowledge I had about Virginia Tech was the shooting. Unfortunately, I didn't know anything else about Tech during that time when I was in high school. But you know, he just sat down with me and just kind of went through stuff with what Tech is, and he's like, these are different opportunities you can have there. And I was also the first to attend university, 4-year university in the United States. So there's a lot that I did not know. You know, my mom was working a lot. She didn't really have time to be driving to different schools. There are a lot of kids that, you know, their parents get to do that, get to drive them to different schools, check out schools and what they offer. Luckily for me, the way I was able to do that was my best friend, her dad would drive her around, and then I'll just kind of tag along. These were schools he was thinking for her. But it was nice to see what college looked like, because at that time I didn't And my mom, she's also even scared to drive on the highway too, so that didn't help. So for her, I have to go to school that she can take back roads to. And Southwest Virginia, where I went to school, was like 5 hours. That woman was not going to drive me there. So, but it was really nice that my best friend, I could tag along when they were going to go check out schools for her. And that was the most college exploring experience that I had. But it was nice, being the first to do these things, that I got exposed to that, and my teachers really spent time with me. And it's not like during class time. It was like outside of class time that I was with them doing these things. So that helped a lot. My high school counselor was also helpful, but I love that my teachers also stepped in. It wasn't just my high school counselor to say, do this, do that, because I really didn't know. A lot of my college process, I did it on my own. My mom just was like, okay, she made sure things were paid for that needed to be paid for, and things were signed when they needed to be signed, but she really didn't know how to give me direction whatsoever in accomplishing these things. In 12th grade, I was introduced by another teacher, Mr. Hopkins, to some, I don't know if it still exists or not, but there was a national club called Technology Students Association, and so he recommended we should have a chapter in our high school, and he recommended myself and another girl to do it because he noticed we really enjoy these STEM things, and Olivia wasn't in robotics, but she was very much into STEM, and she was thinking of pursuing engineering when she went to college. She went to Purdue University, and so we co-founded that club as well when we were in 10th grade, because we're 12th grade and we're going to graduate shortly. So as Janie mentioned in my introduction, I created STEM Magazine. I am the editorial director of STEMher by Ruby B. Johnson Magazine, which is sold on STEMher.com and also on Amazon. And the reason why I created this magazine is because I wanted women in STEM to share their personal and professional backgrounds with the world. The first issue of STEMher Magazine was published in September 2018, and in over a year, 5 seasonal issues have been published featuring stories of more than 70 women and girls in STEM from not only the United States, but also Australia, England, Ghana, France, India, South Africa, Channel Islands, and many more countries and territories. I want women and girls to use this platform to share their milestones, struggles, tips, and many lessons they've learned in this journey called life. A key thing was why I created it is because I was inspired to create STEMher Magazine because I wish that little girl in grade school, little Ruby, had resources like these, because my teachers were telling me, you can be an engineer, you should go for this and all that, but I didn't believe them because I'd never seen that. No woman in my family has ever done something like that. They've done great things, but STEM wasn't what they did. And so it was really hard for me to visualize myself doing that. It was hard. And so that was a big inspiration for this, because in STEMher Magazine, I feature women that look different, that come from different backgrounds, because I want a girl that may open that if in high school or something, she opens that and sees someone that looks just like her, and it's like, if she can do it, I can do it too. There are a lot of times I've been the first to do a lot of things, and that's wonderful, but not many people can do that. They need to see someone, because, representation really matters, and so that's one of the things that inspired me to really go for creating this magazine and having something tangible. Because I think about when I was in the counselor's office, if I could see that magazine on a table and browse through it and see all the different things that women are doing. You can have a geology degree, and there are 3 different paths. I've featured in one of the issues, there are folks who have geology degrees, and in this degree, one works for the federal government, another one does exploration, and then there's another one that works for NASA, and they all have geology degrees. So I wanted to show that you can have that same degree and do different things. I wanted them to also see that there are many different engineering, because Dr. Disler didn't tell me that it's not just engineering. So I also want them to see all the types. So it's like I get entries from women across the world, and I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. It's also like a learning experience for me as well. And I'm like, all I knew was civil mechanical when I was going to college, and then mining engineering, it's when I went to tech that was introduced to me. I didn't even know mining engineering was a thing. I grew up in Sierra Leone, whereby most of our economy comes from diamond mining, but I didn't even know much, and it's like that didn't even make sense to me at all. So just to understand that there are different types of engineering divisions out there. So today, dear educators, based on just my personal experience, I want to encourage all of you, educators, parents, and guardians, and everyone here. I really want to encourage you in terms of doing these three things to spark the interest and also to nurture the STEM interest of your students. 1, continue to create hands-on activities for your students. 2, be attentive to the interest of your students. And 3, be present with them. 1, STEM is not just about writing codes and crunching numbers. STEM includes creating something with no or little direction. Creating projects and in-class work that allows your students to use their problem-solving skills, to think beyond. I highly encourage doing that because that's what drew me in. I didn't know the details of what engineering was, what STEM is, but I just knew I enjoyed working with my hands. I enjoyed building things. I enjoyed coming up with great ideas. I visualized the product before it was even sketched out or designed in any way. So I really encourage you to continue to do that, if you're already doing that, and to start if you're not. I think it's wonderful to see that there's so much advocacy now for STEM, the Education 2000 presentation. I think that's such a great program that you just presented and all the things that you're doing. It's wonderful to have resources like that because back in my day, there weren't that many resources. So it's so wonderful that there's so many amazing resources out there that folks can use, educators can use to encourage their students. I'm thankful for Dr. D, but it was me pushing, and then sometimes maybe he may have been ill-equipped to help me out, but he still did the best. But now there's so much out there, so many resources out there pushing for STEM jobs and education that can be helpful, to give you ideas on what you could do with your students. The second thing I want to definitely encourage is to be attentive to the interest of your students. If you think about it, in a week, children tend to spend more time at school versus at home. We spend more time with our teachers than we spend with our guardians. Because for instance, my mom worked multiple jobs, but also even if she worked one job, I'm at school for the most part in the week. And then I'm with my teachers. And so you can be able to pick things out. Teachers can see something that parents do not always see. My mom always wanted the best for me and wanted me to excel in whatever I did. I thank God for that. However, my teachers are the ones that could point out what my strengths and passions were. They could see that. Someone like Dr. Disler, Mr. Hodges, Mr. Hopkins, they could see that. When you see it, please call it out in your students when you see that thing in them that makes them tick. That extra oomph, whatever gives them excitement, whatever it is that they'll keep working really hard on when they're overthinking something, but it's because also they're passionate. Call it out on them and also encourage them to pursue it and give them practical ways it can be accomplished, because it's Dr. Disler or the other teachers could have been you're great at this and all that stuff. It's all right, well, good luck. But no, they sat me down. One would sit me down and say, here's schools you can go to, here's what you can study, here's the path to this, here's what you need to do. If you're writing this essay, say that. If you're going to pursue that, here are the different deadlines. So definitely kind of be there for them, in some way, because I'm so thankful because my mom couldn't do that. She didn't even know how to do that. Thank God that, I've gone through this, or about with my nieces, I could be helpful to them since I've gone through this process, but I had to kind of learn just because of my teachers, because they understand how the system works. And so, give them practical ways, sit down with them, take the time to be there for them. And because I'm so thankful for those teachers who did that for me, and that's something I'm very vocal about. Whenever I do things like these, whenever I engage in any way, I always take it back to thanking my teachers, because they played such a great role to me in being where I am today, the woman I am today. The third thing is I highly encourage you to be present and intentional with your students, regardless of the differences. So my teachers, the ones who became my mentors in high school, I had nothing in common with them. Nothing whatsoever. Here was a black girl from West Africa, and I was being mentored by Dr. Disler, I was being mentored by Mr. Hopkins. They were all old white American men. I had nothing in common with these men, nothing. I think most of them had boys too, because I know Dr. Disler kept in touch with his son recently and stuff. like a bunch of them had boys. I had nothing in common with them. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to encourage educators to be bold in approaching all students. Encourage your students to reach for their full potential, even if you feel you may not be equipped or you can't relate to them because of maybe a difference in race, class, or sex, gender in any way. But just reach out to them. It's like, if sometimes there may be like language barriers or something like that, but if you see something, really take the time to be with that student, because like, it's like, if you think about it, like how could Dr. Disler could be able to influence me? I didn't see myself in him whatsoever, and he probably couldn't relate to any of my background whatsoever, but we were still able to connect, and there was so much beauty in that, looking beyond differences. You can make a difference in that child's life if you really look beyond those differences. When STEMher Magazine, the first issue, was published in 2018, the first two people that I sent copies to was Dr. Disler, like the first copy ever, hard copy that I received. And I sent him a copy of it, and he sent me back a really sweet response. And then he's like bragging on me. I'm like, I don't remember him ever telling me all that though. Like, he's like, I've always seen it in you. I always believed in you. I'm like, Dr. Disler. I don't know. He was always encouraging, but he never gave me all those pep talks. He always just push, lovingly, of course. But, he sent me such a beautiful thank you card, and I'm so thankful that, I could, he's alive and still going and be able to receive sorry. But really, like, I think about that, and it's so wonderful. And the second person that I sent a copy to was Ray Jenkins. So Ray was one of the students, and one of the folks in my club, in my robotics club, the parent. And so Ray was the one from very early on. He was the one that would be picking me up from my house and dropping me off when like we had practices and competitions and stuff. This is some of the kids' dad. And he just kind of made me his own, because kid graduated like 2 years ahead of me. But Ray was still involved and still in my life during the whole time I was in high school. And he would be dropping me off, like he was, and we even kept in touch. And he retired he was an architect, and he retired and went to teaching, and several years later he would call me to come speak to his kids in high school and whatever, and he always kept in touch. He stepped into my life kind of like a father figure, and he just took interest in me, and my mom just trusted him with me because my mom couldn't, like, she wasn't able to keep up with those schedules. So he was the one that just stepped in, and so I was and I still am, very thankful for Ray for what he did. And so, and why I bring up Ray as well, because he's another person that I got first copies of it, is because even if you don't have a direct teacher-student relationship with a child, you can be a mentor. And like, I'm really trying to encourage, like, being there, because Ray was just a parent and stuff, like, parent of one of the kids in robotics, but he stepped in as well. So maybe this kid may not be in your class or something, you're distant. It could be a neighbor's kid, or it's just somehow, but I love that Ray stepped in and he was always there to help me. He was like my #1 fan in a lot of different things, a lot of my shenanigans, he was part of it. And so I'm very thankful for Ray on that as well. So it's even outside of being the teacher of a student, I highly recommend just being there, being present, being attentive to these kids, and not letting your background stop you, because Ray was another older white guy that was there for me, like he just stepped in and he had nothing in common, and like he would invite me over with his family. I know, like, he has one daughter, a much younger daughter, Emma, but like he had John, who was the one that was in robotics a couple of years ahead of me and stuff. And even after John graduated, Ray was still there for me. He didn't just, and it's like, of course, then after I went to college, then he wasn't active anymore, but I feel like I played a big role in why Ray was still there, because his kid wasn't in robotics anymore, but I was there, so he was still there. So these are the 3 things that I highly encourage. Continue to do hands-on activities, be attentive to the interest of your students, and be present. Thank you for all you do, educators. I really appreciate you, not just my teachers, but all that you do right now. It takes a lot of work. The work that you do goes beyond what you're paid for, goes beyond regular time, school time. I see that, I know that. And thank you for your time and your attention. God bless you, and keep reaching for excellence in